Blizzard are back. Forget the scandals, forget the low-quality game releases over the last 10 years. Get excited, get hyped, everything is right in the world because Blizzard are back with a vengeance. This is it. Or at least that is what I'd be saying if Microsoft implanted a chip in my brain, because Blizzard, of course, are now owned by Microsoft. Phil Spencer, in fact, head of Xbox, he was there as part of BlizzCon, just subtly saying, hey, we own these guys now, we're calling the shots. But I'm talking about BlizzCon because when you go online, fans of Blizzard, gamers, it's the same story time and time again. It doesn't matter how many times Blizzard rip them off, under-deliver, promise features, promise products that they don't deliver on, the fans still eat it up. All it takes is a new trailer, some sort of exciting, nostalgic announcement, and they don't even have to deliver on it. They just announce it and the fans will happily gobble that up. They'll part with their money. They'll pre-order. They'll pay extra for early access or whatever the buzzword is. Microtransactions, battle passes. They'll buy it all to keep involved and give themselves that feeling of being 13 years old when Blizzard were great in that period of their lives. It does keep on happening, and it's not just with Blizzard. It just seems there's all these legacy companies that own a bunch of IPs that were probably great in the 90s, the 2000s. Classic series for Blizzard, it's obviously Warcraft. You've got Diablo, some other series like StarCraft as well. And those IPs essentially held hostage because legally they're the only ones who can make games for them. But the people who actually work at these companies, they were not there when those series were great 15, 20 years ago. It's brand new employees. They're making the games, whether it's Diablo IV or the latest WoW expansion. The fans get excited, but it's really meaningless. It's kind of like Star Wars, where people know the new Star Wars movies, they're not very good, they're not made by the same people who made the classics back in the late 70s and onwards. That's quite clear to people, but it seems like with gaming, for whatever reason, maybe it's because people just can't distinguish that. Is it because they like to get excited with their friends and talk online? Is it because Diablo IV just sounds more exciting than, say, an indie game with genuine, passionate developers who are making a new IP? Even if that is effectively Diablo done better, people just seem to not care about that smaller scale game and still get excited for what Blizzard are doing. It's quite shocking to me. I guess it shouldn't be shocking. We know what gamers are often like in the year 2023, and game companies know it. They know they can fleece people. They'll get them paying no matter what. But I want to talk about some of the BlizzCon announcements and speak to why people really shouldn't be excited. I don't just want to be a complete downer. I'll say that it's nice to get excited about new game announcements, different releases that are coming out from our favourite companies. If Larian announced a new game today, I'd be excited. They've earned it. If Bethesda announce a new game, I'm going to be skeptical. If Blizzard announce one, I'm going to walk away. I'm not going to give it a second thought. And I feel like you should too, because Blizzard have not earned anyone's trust. They are still at rock bottom in my eyes. They have to actually deliver products that are great before people should get excited, part with their money once again. Just announcing something, a CGI trailer, hyping up a few PowerPoint presentations, that's not something to trust. They have been scamming their fans for years happily. They surely have to actually deliver on something before people get hyped up. They did this with Diablo IV. This was a few months ago. People got excited. It sold millions and millions of copies. Now people are saying it's rubbish. It kind of had that Starfield effect. Starfield released, it had very positive reviews on Steam, decent mainstream reviews, but over time, even the Bethesda fanboys started to get sick of it, and it's not far from mixed reviews on Steam. Diablo IV, that's now on Steam, mixed reviews. Over time, people realized it wasn't good. I just bought into the hype. So, looking at the BlizzCon 2023 announcements, first of all, you've got Overwatch 2, which isn't really a game. It's still Overwatch from 2016. All they did was update the monetization. And they might say, hey, that is what a sequel is in 2023. Our monetization teams, they had to work hard to figure out how to get you to spend more money. Our psychiatrists, we've got more of them than we've got developers. We've got to pay them, and they've been hard at work studying brain waves, studying human patterns to figure out how they can get you to press that button to buy a new skin, to pay for a new character. That's hard work, but I'll tell you this, Overwatch 2, I believe they planned it all from the start. What I mean by that is Overwatch 2 was sold on the promise of PvE combat. It wasn't just going to be a PvP game, sort of matchmaker anymore. It was going to be like a Destiny, where there were going to be bosses, probably raids. You could play with your friends, taking on PvE encounters, taking on PvE enemies. So it was sold on that promise that we were going to get this huge new game mode. But when Overwatch 2 came out, that wasn't actually anywhere to be seen. That was upcoming. They released the equivalent of a patch in terms of new PvP content, and that was really it. So they're selling you Overwatch 2, but there's really no content. It's coming soon. A few months after that, it felt like they cancelled the entire PvE game mode and gave a sorry excuse that they wanted to focus on people playing the game now, not potential people interested in PvE. And then people suddenly thought, hang on a minute, what's the point of Overwatch 2 then? Because this is literally just Overwatch 1 with the new monetization. And people were very angry about the cancellation. Why would you do this? You've worked on it for so long. But let me tell you this, they definitely cancelled that long before Overwatch 2 actually came out, the release of the whole new marketing effort, Overwatch 2. Because Blizzard resembles a 1910s manufacturing company. A very slow conveyor belt, the workers are in their 60s, they're bumbling, the gears are rusty. It's all very slow moving. That is Blizzard. So if they cancelled Overwatch 2 BVE, that would have happened long before the game actually came out. And then they had all the marketing already in full force for Overwatch 2. They would have been planning that for a year. So they figured, hey, let's just release it, pretend the PvE's still coming, and then we'll quietly cancel it once the hype's worn off and everyone's already jumped in, bought skins, characters, because of the hype of all of these new game modes. I can't prove it, but that's what I really do think happened. It doesn't make sense that they just happened to cancel it a few months after. Blizzard do not move that fast. You've then got Diablo 4. Again, this is the primary example of people attached to the IP and not the people making it. The team working on Diablo 4, none of them are involved in the classic games, at least not most of them by any degree. And yet this comes out, it's clearly designed to get people buying microtransactions. They pretend it's a live service title. They're going to constantly update it. But the updates are essentially quality of life patches. And to get any real new content, you're going to have to buy a yearly expansion. Keep paying that box price, that full $60. If you're into doing that, fine. But I believe that there's indie companies delivering way more content for a much lower price. Anyone spending the money is doing it because of the IP and not really the quality of the game. And I hope it stops because IP shouldn't matter. I know why it's nostalgic, but people have to look at the product. Forget about the series because it's just a vessel that the company uses, the huge corporate conglomerate uses, knowing it's going to bring people in. It's going to pull at people's heartstrings. But what they actually deliver is pretty much nothing, as we've seen. Warcraft, let's look at Hearthstone. Let's not, no one cares about it. Warcraft Rumble. Vic Sarif, I feel sorry for this guy because he has to get up on stage and pretend that Warcraft Rumble is a genuine video game and not just a menu simulator on your phone designed to get you to hit the buy button. I guarantee you that these teams, they're not like old, passionate dev development teams. You've seen them photos of like the Doom studio, id Software with John Romero, where you can just tell it's a bunch of nerds who are there to make a game. That is not happening with Warcraft Rumble. It's a group of psychologists, psychiatrists in a room trying to outdo each other on how they can trick the general public and get them spending money. That's the new era that we're in. But it brings us to World of Warcraft, which is Exhibit A. It's Blizzard's primary franchise. And of course, they hit us with the most underwhelming announcement first of all. World of Warcraft Cataclysm Classic. Can they remove the classic part? Because there is nothing classic anymore. You can access all of the content in the game right now. You can do all the raids. You can explore all of the zones. You couldn't do that with vanilla Burning Crusade and Wrath to a degree because you had the old world of Azeroth that is inaccessible in the retail game. It made sense that was classic that they re-released it. But this just feels pointless. I guess it's like progression servers. Maybe they'll get a bunch of people hyped initially, but it's going to die off real fast. Even Wrath was dying off, so something like Cataclysm, that'll be dead very quickly. This whole season of Discovery, That is really where people are getting overly hyped, I think. There's this idea that Season of Discovery is Classic Plus. It's this huge new era of Classic that we've been looking forward to. I guess the problem is that Classic Plus is kind of a broad term, and you see these people getting excited. Season of Discovery is Classic Plus. What it sounded like to me is a bit of an experiment on a shoestring budget. Classic seemingly has never had a big team. It seems like Blizzard were heavily profiting off it, and they wanted to keep those profits going. They didn't want to reinvest those back into the game and see the Classic team improve things, start to build out new content. Nah, just keep doing the bare minimum, keep collecting the money, knowing maybe one day it could just die off, but we'll take the money now, thanks. We won't try and improve things. So everyone was hoping that one day we would get Classic Plus. There's heaps of fan-made servers out there which do actually develop brand new vanilla content, and some of them are quite good. Given that teams of essentially volunteers can do it, surely Blizzard can. So people were really, really hoping. The Classic Plus or Season of Discovery that I saw from Blizzard during BlizzCon was just an experiment. There's some sort of raid of Black Fathom Deep's one of the dungeons there at level 25. You can mix and match with classes. You can use different abilities on different classes. A mage can be a healer. A warlock can be a tank. But apart from that, all I really saw were empty promises. People are holding on to these terms that I've read in the comments on Reddit and on Wowhead, where people will say, oh, but they said that this could open the way to new zones and potentially new raids and dungeons. It's fine for them to say that, but that just feels like a carrot. That they're kind of dangling that there to say, come on, sub now, get into this. If you can show us that you're going to pay money and come back to the game, then we will reinvest. I've always hated that. It is like remasters of old games where they say, if everyone buys this remaster, we'll make a new game in the series. And for me, that's pathetic. There are people who do not want to just play the same game again, buy it again, just to try and fund a new iteration of the series. That's just not fair. If you're not confident that people will buy the new game, then just go away and leave us alone. I feel that way with this Season of Discovery. It feels like the bare minimum. It's nice to have something. I'm not saying that they shouldn't do this. I just don't like that people are saying, like this person, Season of Discovery is Classic Plus. Sure, with a real broad definition, maybe it is. There's technically new content being added, but I think most people were talking about new dungeons, new zones to explore, brand new quests, really expanding on what we've got now. Because if they don't do that, the game is eventually going to die off for the casual player. I don't think everyone cares about what's happening at max level, min-maxing, finding new efficient ways to do things. Some people just want to explore the world, and eventually the same old zones will get boring. I mean, I'm one of those people. I don't really care about the end game of Classic. I like leveling. Hardcore was a nice, fun experience, but it got old kind of quick. Once you've died 20 times and you start redoing the same crap over and over, you get a bit sick of it. What I want is brand new zones and something new and exciting. This to me is not it. It feels like the bare minimum, and people saying that it's fine because, oh, they did promise that maybe one day we'll add new things. That is not it to me. That is classic modern Blizzard. Does that make sense? Not really, but you know what I mean. It is just how Blizzard are now. They make promises, they don't deliver. I reckon 2 years from now, they're still going to be doing these little experiments, the bare minimum, and people are just going to still be holding on to. They're definitely going to expand on it massively soon. It is for sure going to happen. I don't trust them until they deliver, until I see a Mount Hyjal revamped, Karazhan Crypts, a brand new dungeon raid, and I can actually play that for myself, or there's clear dev videos showing that it's there. Before then, it just feels like a one-liner at a conference to get people interested, to get people hyped. And this BlizzCon was all about that. Pulling at the heartstrings, nostalgia. Chris Metzen, of course, there, announcing the new expansions, the new storyline. It's all the same stuff. They've got the old IPs. They control them. They're always convincing you that it's going to go back to the glory days. But that never happens. They ask for your money. They put their hand out. But the glory days never come, and they run off with your money. That's really about it. And with Chris Metzen, so it's cool and all to have him out there, the big hype, I suppose, the unexpected announcement is that they unveiled not just one, but 3 upcoming expansions. Most of them, it seems, or even all of them, are set in the old world of Azeroth. We're not going off to a different planet. We're not undead this time. It's all on Azeroth. It's all at the heart of the game, essentially. Now, the expansions themselves, sure, they might sound cool. The War Within, Midnight, The Last Titan, but it's very much modern Blizzard. Once we sort of step back a bit and we close our mouths that are ajar with excitement, we see that it is just the modern way of the War Within. There's a million editions, of course. There is the base edition, which gets you the game, but nothing else. They don't want you to buy that one. They'd like that one to go away. Heroic edition, you get a little bit more, but it's this epic edition, $90. If you couldn't tell by my accent, Australian, it is $135 in my country, which is very expensive for a game, especially an expansion to a game. It's not a brand new title, it's just an add-on with less content than the original base game. What do you get? 4 zones, the same old cycle of dungeons and a few raids. They want you to pay $135 in my country for that. And what you get, Trader's Tender, if you're not familiar with that, it's essentially an in-game cash shop. Originally, you earned this currency with in-game activities, but over time, they've allowed you to buy the currency in different ways with real money. So it's just another way to fleece you, essentially, outside the real cash shop. They can essentially hide things a bit better, but you're still parting with more of your real money. The big one, though, is the 3 days early access. I will say that in some situations, early access is my, I suppose, at least hated version of monetization. I would rather there was none of it, but at least with early access, normally it means the fundamentals of the game won't change. If a game is built around microtransactions, it'll affect the entire game. People will say, oh, just don't buy it, but the developers are incentivized to design everything around getting you to spend real money, so it automatically ruins the game and takes out the fun. Early access, this happened for something like Hogwarts Legacy. That game wasn't designed around getting you to spend real money. It's not like they designed things in the game to trick you into buying it early and getting the early access. It is at least a little bit upfront in terms of how it works. However, with World of Warcraft, they have everything. A sub, a cash shop, early access if you pay more money, $135. So that grinds my gears a bit. That is pretty gross. I don't think I'll be buying it. I've bought most of the World of Warcraft expansions, but I've just found for me, I don't really care about the dungeons and raids anymore. I don't have time for them because I like to experience other games. All these RPGs that have come out, 100 plus hours, Baldur's Gate 3, checking out Starfield for a while until you get bored, Phantom Liberty. I want to experience all these, so I don't have time to sit on World of Warcraft all day, every month, and sort of keep going on that hamster wheel. So I'm not going to be doing it. And the only thing I would be doing is playing through the levels and maybe checking out a few things at endgame. I feel like Blizzard do the bare minimum in that department. It feels like these days they design the whole game around, I guess, the hardcore players who are at endgame doing absolutely everything. That's not me, so I don't really care. When it comes to Blizzard, this just seemed like the nostalgia bait show. They had Chris Metzen out there announcing not just 1, but 3 different expansions. And I don't know if they did that because these expansions are going to be coming out in really quick succession. Maybe there won't be many patches anymore. You've got to pay $135 to get the full expansion with all the bells and whistles, and you've got to do that every 9 months, every 18 months maybe. Could that be the case? I guess, but it'll take a while for them to do it. In the past, they've talked about yearly expansions and they couldn't deliver, so I can't see it happening unless they heavily reduce the scope. The only other way I could see is if they have multiple teams working on an expansion each, kind of like Call of Duty, where there's a different team making each sequel so they can keep up with a yearly schedule. Maybe that could happen, but I could see that leading to more problems where each of them just feel isolated. They can't learn from, I guess, the last one because all the teams are doing their own things. It could just get really, really messy. Maybe they're worried that Chris Metzen's going to leave again, and they wanted him to hype it all up now because next year it'll just be a suit going up there to talk about it. Not quite as impressive. So I am not hyped until Blizzard actually release something and it's in my hands and I can safely say this is great. I'm not going to trust announcements, words. I've heard it all before. Everyone has, and yet they still seem to trick people. I think it's purely because of the IPs, the names. It's nothing to do with the people who work there. Sure, Chris Metzen is back, but he is one person. They used to have the golden team where pretty much everyone was great, talented, creative. Now it's just a bunch of people in California who I'm not convinced. You see a photo of those teams, I'm not convinced that those people are going to deliver anything of any sort of quality. They can prove me wrong, but that is yet to happen. They've released dud after dud. Even when it seems like it'll be good, they seem to drop the ball. Again, something like a Diablo IV. This whole season of Discovery, it's not really the Classic Plus that people were hoping for. The Copas seem to think it is, but come on, you knew that wasn't what you were looking for. This is just the lowest possible quality version of that, the lowest effort. So I hope people don't just part with their money. They wait, they don't pre-order, they only buy when it feels right, it feels justified. So thanks so much for listening. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye.